All right, so I've just finished removing all of the ribbing, and this piece can be tossed aside, and I've picked up all of my stitches. When you're picking up stitches as you go around, don't be overly concerned with making sure that the stitches are oriented in the correct direction, because you can always fix that as you knit. But when you get to the end, you'll notice that you've got a fairly short piece of yarn that's going to be difficult for you to weave in. So you'll need to back up a little bit from there. So I'm just going to put my beginning of the round stitch marker on and back up 8 or 10 stitches so that I have enough yarn to weave in. I mentioned in the earlier part of the video that you may be off a stitch, and that's actually not entirely correct. You'll pick up the same number of stitches, but because they're oriented differently, you'll be offset by about by exactly half a stitch, because as you knit, the stitches make a V. So because I was knitting in the opposite direction, the V is facing in this direction. So instead of picking up a loop here, you're picking up a loop where these two stitches meet. So you're offset by just a stitch. So I'll take the end of my old yarn and the end of my new yarn, and I will get those wet. You can do that either by soaking them in some water or using some saliva and doing a true splice. But especially with a yarn like this Lopi, I find this to be the most effective way to graft the yarn. So once the yarns are dampened, use the friction of your hands and the dampness from the water to just graft those, or to splice those together. And once those have been spliced, then you can start knitting again. And what I'll do is I'll knit a row in this gray color just to make sure that all of my stitches have been oriented properly. By the time I get back around to my beginning of the round stitch marker again, it'll be time for me to start that ribbing. And then I'll follow the directions of the pattern, except in opposite order. So like I said, I'm doing this because I didn't swatch my colors to come up with colors that I really like and change my mind midstream. But if you have a child that you knit for and they've begun to outgrow the sweater that you've knit them, you could cut off the ribbing of the sweater, add some length, and then reknit the ribbing on either the body or on the sleeves, because as we know, kids tend to grow up before they grow out. So that's a way to extend the life of your knitting if you're knitting for small people. So I hope this makes sense, and I hope it helps you with your knitting in the future. Thanks.